Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Why don't you come on in here with me and sit down and let's open our Bibles up. And boy, we've got a good study this week and next. We're going to be studying Psalm 10. So first part this week, verses 1 through 9. Second part next week, verses 10 through 18. So this psalm is nicely divided, really, for us into three sections. We have verses 1 and 2, which comprise the question. And then 3 through 13, you have this inventory of definition. So he's defining the wicked man for us. He's giving us details. So when he uses the word wicked, which he uses a lot in the Psalms, in contrast to the righteous or the upright or the just man, when he uses wicked, we can always come back here to Psalm 10 and say, well, what exactly does he mean by the wicked man? And then you can see this definition built out before you. Now, I've uncovered 14 items here. You may look at this list and find more. You might find less. But what you'll find from 3 to 14 or from 3 to 13 is this, what I call the grand definition of the wicked. And I think it's good in a book like the Psalms that in just one of the Psalms, we have this kind of identification for us. Just kind of helps, I think. And then in verses 14 through 18, at the end, you have a prayer combined with a confident confession of faith. So just to look at this, well, I tell you what, why don't we read verses 1 and 2, and then I'll continue my remarks. Why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. All right. That's verses 1 and 2. And you'll notice the questions that we have here in verse 1. Why do you stand afar off? Why do you conceal yourself? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? So this psalm here at the beginning can be compared to Psalm 49 and Psalm 73. Those are two more psalms that deal with the subject of evil in the world. And this one does too. But as I've called it, the grand definition of the wicked, it really deals more with the nature of the wicked rather than the problem of wickedness. The problem of wickedness is clearly stated because of the way they behave. But I think there's more here than just dealing with the problem of evil in the world. Psalm 73 does a good job with that. Psalm 49 does a good job with that. And here in Psalm 10, we have this idea of, well, who are the wicked? What are they doing? How do they behave? So the very first question is, why do you stand afar off? Which is our question when we confront the problem of evil in the world. Why is God not working? Why does he allow the things that are allowed in the world? And I love the way the psalmist puts it, why do you stand afar off? Why do you hide yourself? You know, we need goodness. You're the source of goodness. Where are you when the bad things come around? And boy, you know, something wicked this way comes is not just a title of a book, but it's a truth. When the pride of the wicked burns against the poor, that's my translation there in verse 2. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they've imagined. Now, we know some of the devices, don't we? The pit and the net. I think we're going to see that again here, but there are probably more devices. The snare, the pit, the net, all of those things. These are devices that are imagined by the poor. And of course, these are not just things, but it's the pits, the nets, the snares they're going to lay, sometimes in just words. You know, they try to trap you in your own words. And so this is the wicked. They're going to be found working against the purposes of the Lord. And the question at the very beginning of this psalm is, Lord, where are you? And isn't that always our question when we come to dealing with the problem of evil in the world? Where is the Lord? Okay. Well, we're going to see tomorrow in verse 3, the very beginning of this definition that David gives of here in Psalm 10. All righty? I'll see you then. Tomorrow we'll do verses 3 and 4 here on Daily Dose Radio.